It was supposed to be the proudest day of my life, the day I finally proved I wasn't the useless disappointment my parents had always said I was. The auditorium buzzed with clapping and flashing cameras, students in gowns hugging their families, flowers being handed, tears and laughter filling the air. But as always, my parents managed to turn it into something rotten. I stood backstage, gripping my diploma folder so tight it bent at the corners. My palms were sweating through the fabric of my robe. The announcer's voice echoed through the microphone. Next, graduating with honors in biomedical sciences. Madison Carter. My heart stuttered. That was me. Years of late-night shifts, instant noodles, and crying into textbooks, all for this single walk across the stage. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. I stepped out. The applause was distant, like underwater echoes. My eyes darted through the crowd, and there they were, my parents, front row center, wearing the same smug expressions I'd grown up memorizing. Mom's mouth curved into something that looked like a smile, but wasn't. Dad's arm rested lazily on the back of his chair. My sister Stephanie sat beside them, wearing designer sunglasses indoors as if the rest of us were beneath her. When I reached the dean and took my diploma, something sharp cut through the noise. My mother's voice, loud, unapologetic, cruel. "Well, finally," she said. "Good, now you can start paying us back for existing." Laughter exploded from the people around them. Not just her laugh. Dad's deep chuckle followed, and even Stephanie smirked behind her nails. My stomach twisted as the dean's handshake froze in midair. For a moment, everything went quiet inside me. Then the sound of the crowd's laughter grew louder, brighter, like a spotlight burning my skin. I wanted to vanish. I forced a shaky smile and walked off the stage, face hot and blurry. Behind me, Mom called out again. "Don't forget to thank us, Maddie. You'd be nothing without our sacrifices." The entire section erupted again. Even the photographer's camera clicked in rhythm with their mockery. After the ceremony, graduates clustered with their families outside. Bouquets, hugs, proud selfies. I stood alone, clutching my cap and trying not to let my tears ruin my makeup. My parents approached, of course. They always did when there was an audience. Mom looped her arm through mine, her nails digging slightly into my gown. "You did good, kid. Guess all those nights we didn't help you paid off, huh?" Dad smirked, tapping my diploma case. "Hope that paper's worth something, 'cause we're adding your share of the electric bill next month." Stephanie laughed. "Oh, come on, Dad, she's broke. Let her enjoy the 2 minutes of fame before reality hits." "Reality already hit," I said softly. "It hit me every night while I studied in the dark because you'd shut the power off to teach me responsibility." Mom rolled her eyes. Here we go again. The victim's speech. She leaned close enough for her perfume to sting. "You're lucky we didn't just give up on you. You owe us your life, Madison." My lips trembled. I didn't ask for it. Dad's laughter was low and cruel. "Then you should have made it worth something." He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, turning it toward me. On the screen was a video, me tripping slightly as I left the stage, red-faced, humiliated, their laughter audible in the background. He'd filmed it. "This one's going on Facebook," he said, chuckling. Caption: "Our daughter finally graduated from Failure University." Something cracked inside me. I wasn't sure if it was my pride, my heart, or both. When they finally left for dinner, without me of course, I stayed behind at the empty campus courtyard. The sky turned orange, then violet. I sat on the cool stone steps, cap in my lap, diploma pressed to my chest like a bandage. For hours I just sat there, watching other families drive away with laughter echoing out of open car windows. I thought about all those nights I'd begged them to see me, all the birthdays they skipped, all the times they'd said, "You'll never be good enough." And yet, I still wanted them to love me. That realization hurt the most. When the janitor came to lock up, I forced myself to stand. My knees trembled. I wiped my eyes and whispered to myself, "They don't get to break me again." I walked out into the parking lot, the air cold and sharp, the sound of gravel crunching under my shoes. For the first time in years, I didn't drive home. I didn't even look back. I drove to the diner where I worked part-time and asked for a double shift. Anything to avoid that house. Anything to avoid their laughter. But I knew deep down, this wasn't over. They'd fed me humiliation my entire life. Someday I'd return the favor, and they wouldn't just choke on it. They'd taste every grain of the dirt they made me crawl through. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. The words, "pay us back for existing," looped in my head like a broken record. Every laugh, every snicker, every flash of my parents' mocking faces replayed until it felt like the walls themselves were echoing with it. I lay in the back booth of the diner after my shift, still in my uniform, my graduation gown folded beside me like a dead memory. The waitress who'd trained me, Angie, a kind woman in her 40s with tired eyes, slid me a cup of coffee even though my shift was over. "Rough day?" she asked. I gave a small, humorless laugh. "You could say that." She leaned on the counter. "Family?" "Yeah," I whispered, the kind that calls you a burden in front of an audience. She didn't pry. She just nodded like she understood. "Honey, sometimes blood's the first poison you learn to survive." Her words lingered. For the first time, I thought about survival, not just enduring them, not just hoping for love that never came, but surviving beyond them. The next few weeks were a blur. I moved out quietly, no dramatic scene. I took the few boxes of things they hadn't already repurposed for Stephanie's room, a lamp, some notebooks, my diploma, and left a note on the kitchen counter. "Don't worry, you won't have to pay for my existence anymore." I rented a tiny studio apartment above a mechanic shop with thin walls and a window that rattled every time a bus passed by. But it was mine. The first night, I sat on the floor with a microwave dinner and cried. Not because I was sad, but because the silence was mine, too. No shouting, no insults, no one laughing when I spoke. At the diner, I worked every shift they'd give me. Days, nights, doubles. Customers complained, spilled coffee, left lousy tips. But I smiled through it all because it was my effort, my paycheck, my life. Sometimes I'd catch myself glancing at my phone, half expecting a call from them. Maybe they'd apologize or at least pretend to care, but the only texts that came were from Dad. "Dad, remember to send money this month." "Dad, Stephanie's phone broke. You owe us for raising you. Help your sister." "Dad, you think you're better than us now? Don't forget who fed you." Each message felt like a hand trying to drag me back into the dirt, so I stopped responding. Then came the photo. One evening, while mopping the diner floor, my phone buzzed. Stephanie had sent me a picture, her sprawled on my old bed, wearing my graduation gown like a costume. The caption read, "Your room's finally being put to good use." My throat tightened. I could almost hear their laughter again. That house had always smelled like control, like perfume, cigarette smoke, and cheap pride. They hadn't just taken my bed. They'd taken every piece of peace I'd built for myself. But not this time. The next day, I stopped by my old college professor's office to drop off a thank you note. He looked surprised to see me. "Madison, you disappeared after graduation. Everything all right?" I smiled faintly. "Just learning what it means to start from zero." He nodded. "That's where the best things begin." And he was right, because the next chapter of my life started with that zero. Over the next year, I took night courses in research analysis while working at the diner. I barely slept, barely ate, but my mind stayed sharper than ever. Slowly, I climbed. I got a position as a lab assistant at a local medical facility, then a research grant, then a full-time analyst position. Every paycheck, every promotion, every late night spent proving them wrong. It all built something inside me that their cruelty had tried to bury. Self-worth. Still, the past had a way of knocking. On the door. One rainy Sunday, as I reviewed patient data in the lab, I got a call. It was Mom. Her voice was trembling. Not angry, not mocking this time. Just weak. "Maddie," she said, "your father's been let go. The company shut down. We're in trouble. For a moment, I said nothing. The silence stretched. I could hear her breathing, shaky and desperate. Trouble? I repeated. Like the kind I was in when I couldn't afford groceries? Or when I begged you to help me pay for textbooks? She sniffled. You don't have to be cruel. I learned from the best. Please, she said, voice cracking. We just need a little help. Stephanie's staying with us and we can't— Stop, I interrupted. You can't what? Live without my money? I thought I owed you for existing. Maddie, don't, I said. You taught me what I was worth. Remember? She fell silent. I hung up. For the first time, I felt something colder than hate, closure, but revenge. Revenge wasn't done yet. 2 weeks later, I got another call, this time from Stephanie. Her voice was panicked. Madison, it's bad. Dad got sick. We can't afford his meds. Mom said you have connections through work. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the sterile white walls of my office. My reflection in the glass smiled faintly. You want help from the one who didn't deserve help? That's rich. Please, she whispered. You're all we've got. That line hit me because once, that was me. I was the one begging for scraps of love, for any sign that I mattered, but I wasn't her anymore. You want help? I said slowly. I'll come see you. I hung up before she could thank me. That night, I drove to their house for the first time in 2 years. The driveway was cracked, the paint peeling off the walls. It smelled like mildew and dust instead of control. Mom opened the door, and the look on her face, shock, guilt, fear, was almost satisfying. She stepped aside. You came. I smiled. Of course, you said you needed me. Inside, the house was dim. Dad sat slumped in a chair, pale and weak. Stephanie hovered nearby, biting her nails. For a brief moment, I saw them not as monsters, but as what they truly were. Small, hollow people who'd built their pride on my pain. I sat across from them, crossing my legs neatly. So, tell me what you need. Mom opened her mouth, but my voice cut through. Actually, don't. I already know. Their eyes widened. I set a small brown box on the table. This, I said, is everything I ever wanted to give you. Dad frowned, opening the lid. Inside was dirt, plain, dry soil. What the hell is this? He asked. The ground, I said softly. You told me I belonged there. I figured it's time you had a taste. Their faces drained of color. You can keep it, I said, standing. Consider it payment for existing. And with that, I walked out, leaving behind the only home that had ever made me feel homeless. The air outside was cold, but for once, it didn't bite. It felt clean. I didn't look back that night. Not once. Their porch light flickered as I drove away, the box of dirt still sitting on their table like a curse they'd cast on themselves. Weeks passed. I heard nothing. No calls, no texts, no begging. Just silence. The same silence they once gave me when I cried for help as a teenager. But silence, I learned, was louder than any scream. Then, one morning, a letter arrived at my apartment. The handwriting was shaky, almost unfamiliar. It was Mom's. Madison, we don't expect forgiveness. We just want you to know the dirt is still on the table. We see it every day. We can't eat without thinking about what we fed you all those years. It's what we deserved. Your father stopped laughing. Your sister left to find herself. But I think she's just running from what we did. I keep the lights off now. The silence hurts too much. You were the only one who ever tried to stand. We should have let you. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in my drawer, not because I wanted to keep their apology, but because it reminded me that I'd won without ever having to scream. A few months later, I walked across a different stage, not a graduation, but a conference stage at a medical symposium. I was being honored for my research on pediatric trauma recovery. As I stood there under the lights, the applause this time sounded different. It wasn't hollow. It wasn't forced. It was mine. After the ceremony, I stepped outside into the evening air. A little girl passed by, holding her mother's hand, laughing. The sight hit something deep in me, a reminder of everything I'd survived. I knelt down, smiled, and whispered to myself, "You fed them dirt, but you grew something out of it." And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I felt free. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.